David Montgomery got traded to the Texans. Give me your thoughts. Tell me what you thought he was worth dynasty value-wise before the trade and then after.
I mean, if you were a contender, he was a fine person if you had injuries. Like if he was not somebody you were relying on. If you had somebody get hurt, if you were in, bye-week apocalypse, it's week 10, you don't have anybody. If you can pop David Montgomery in there, like you're fine. You feel fine about it. Nobody ever was excited to have David Montgomery going into 2025. And I don't necessarily think they're going to be going into 2026 either, but he's more viable. You can't leave Jahmyr Gibbs and then have Woody Marks as your competition and just think it's not an exponentially better situation. Are you getting a first for him? Hell no. Absolutely not. Because he's still an old crumb bum and nobody's excited about him. But he's one of those guys that if you're going to do a startup and maybe you miss on some running backs, maybe you go wide receiver and quarterback heavy and he's there, like you're not upset. I don't think anybody's going to be excited about David Montgomery, but if you already had David Montgomery, you have to be happy. You have to be content with this situation.
Are you plugging him in as a flex starter?
Immediately, probably not if you think you're going to win the league. Assumingly, you would have a better option there. But there's a lot of teams that will be starting David Montgomery in the first couple of weeks. Maybe not week 1, but I think he'll get enough of the volume early in the season that once we get into week 4 and week 5, I think people will be, if you have 2 flex spots, throwing David Montgomery in there, hoping he falls into the end zone.
All right, so you want to hold him for depth. What if I offered you 206?
I mean, I would rather have David Montgomery than 206. To harken back to my Dynasty Warzone days, I often said that if a second-round pick fell out of my pocket, I wouldn't bend down and pick it up, so 206 doesn't really do a lot for me.
All right, so what about a high second, like 201 or 202?
I think that's probably the range you're at, and it depends on your situation. I'm fine if somebody wants the second in that situation, and I'm fine if somebody wants David Montgomery in that situation. I'm not going to, think it's egregious either way.
Chad, do you think it will get to the point where rookie fever takes over and you can get Montgomery for a mid to late second?
I think it's going to depend what happens in the NFL draft. If there's any kind of I think even a running back, they take a running back in the 5th round, there's going to be some opportunity to buy him just because he's not one of those players that's given the benefit of the doubt. But I would do it every time. I'm with Jerry there. I may be a little bit more bullish even. I think David Montgomery in that offense, with as much as they want to establish the run, I think he's immensely more talented than Woody Marks is. And he's, he didn't have his best season last year, but it was one of his best seasons. And he did look like a little bit more of an explosive player. A breakaway percentage went up. Yards per carry weren't that bad. Everything just looks good going into a year where he has the potential to have the main role. I'm buying all day if I can get him around that price or a little bit, a little bit more expensive even.
To just build on what you said there, as a Lions fan who watched a lot of them, some of the problems with the Lions was that they were not giving David Montgomery the ball enough. Now, I know you want to give Jahmyr Gibbs the ball because he's unbelievable, but also David Montgomery was good, and David Montgomery was explosive, and he was the heartbeat of that team a lot when we were having our successful, seasons. So I agree. I think it's going to be a good situation. Happy for the dude. Think he's awesome. And do you want to rely on CJ Stroud? Fuck no.
Yeah, this is exactly the kind of player that you go into the season and he is on the championship roster. Like he's in that last flex spot or the second to last flex spot. And you're like, man, like, before the season started, I could have got this guy for nothing. And he's just one of those guys that helps build championship teams. I think this is the exact kind of player that I'm targeting if I have a competitive roster.
Austin, do you agree with all that?
Yeah. This last year, my guy before injury, I guess technically going in this time last year would have been Joe Mixon. So now it's a healthy version of Joe Mixon.
Okay.
I think the efficiency numbers we're going to see are very similar, if not even better efficiency wise. And Woody Marks doesn't scare me at all. If they don't draft Jadarian Price, I'm not really worried in the draft. for his usage this year. So yeah, I'm good to go with Montgomery moving forward. I would absolutely pay pretty much any pick after that Boston, Concepcion, Cooper, Simpson, maybe tight end 2 or /3. So wherever that RB3 is going in this rookie draft, I'm fine giving that pick up for Montgomery.